Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Next High School podcast. My name is Nathan Robinson.
I am Leni Whildin, the school counselor here at Next High School.
Leni, I've worked with you at Next High School for several years now. Do you want to say a little bit about what led you to our school and sort of some of the things you really enjoy about being here?
Sure. One of the biggest things that has attracted me to Next High School to initially start working here was the fact that I was given a blank slate. Things are very individualized here, and I was given the ability and even asked, to really kind of create the counseling department. So I was able to think outside of the box as opposed to in some of the bigger high schools and create something that would work for the space and the students here.
When you were first creating that sort of vision for the counseling department at the school, what was some of your vision or your motivation as you took on that challenge?
I think the biggest thing I always say to the parents is it takes a village, and it takes everybody working together as a team.
Can you kind of describe who are the members of that village here when it comes to sort of supporting our students?
When working with a student, there's their life here at school, the relationships they have here with either the other students or staff and teachers and support staff as well. There's relationships they have within the community as well as the relationships with their family and friends outside of the school. So, when trying to look at the whole picture for a student and how we can support them academically, if things aren't going well outside of school, then it makes it really difficult for classes and schoolwork to really become a priority. So when you see somebody that's struggling, we want to reach out and figure out what it is that is keeping them stuck and what do we need to do to get them unstuck. In working with the parents or whatever family members that the student is staying with, as well as any teachers and relationships and pros and support staff here that they're close with as well, and working with all of them to work with the student to help them and support them.
So let's dive into a few specifics. Let's start with academics. When we talk about Next High School is uniquely able to meet a student where they are and help them get sort of from where they are to where they need to be, including graduation, including these major milestones. But what does that look like when it comes to academics? A student who may be either struggling with academics or behind in credits, what does that look like?
It looks individual and it looks eclectic and eccentric for each one of our students. And that's, one of the favorite pieces of this school for me. If we have a student that comes in, for instance, we had one that actually was homeless and living in another state and moved here with another family member. And when he joined us, he had barely enough credits to be considered a freshman. And the support staff were able to meet and kind of spearhead and talk with the state from where he came from and work out a plan where he actually only ended up graduating one semester later than when he was supposed to. So we were really able to figure out what holes and what things had been left behind that he wasn't able to accomplish, meet him where he was at, and then get really creative in an approach with his classes so that he was able to excel and see that graduation was something that he could do when he didn't think that he could.
So if you've been in high school or a high schooler, you know that academics is only one piece of the puzzle. There's a lot going on for young people going through those 4 years. A lot of that has to do with culture and feeling safe and also working through issues that students may have, whether that is those are behavioral issues or social issues.
One of the things, and it was one of the things that had attracted me to Next from the beginning, was because of the size. It's smaller. Our average classes range anywhere from 6 or 8 students up till about 20 or so. So we're able to have a smaller environment that really is able to be supportive and safe for our students. And when we create a community or the culture within this school has really been, if you know about Next, the pillars of respect yourself and the space and respect others. And when those three pillars are being honored, we create an environment that helps students have the opportunity to thrive, to feel safe, to be okay with talking to other peers that are next to them, to saying hello to each other in the hallways. Everyone has a story and everybody's walking their own walk right now. And what's nice about Next is that not only are we trying to provide an education for our students, but the relationships the connections that we have with our students. They understand that we do truly care about them, that we do want to see them succeed. And they see that in our actions and how we treat them. We treat them as an individual, and we're able to have that environment here where everybody can just be comfortable with who they are.
So as our students grow into maturity, right, there are going to be some bumps along the way, some mistakes made. What does it look like for a student to make a mistake and then have a path towards restoration here within the space and with their peers and with their teachers?
The big approach that we try to take here at Next is a restorative practice and restorative approach. You have a punitive approach, which is just doing time and being consequence, suspension, or, oh, you get a detention. But here what we do is we try to recognize the behavior, the issue at hand. Maybe someone is being disrespectful to somebody else or to themselves or did some sort of vandalism to the school or things like that. I mean, it is a high school. Things do happen. But what we do, instead of just punishing them, we take the opportunity to make it a teachable moment, or to try to do that at least. We create an environment where they know that they're safe, but they also know that they're going to be held accountable. So there are consequences for their decisions, but we want them to understand who's been affected around them, the harm that they've caused to our community and to the people within our community. And then when they're able to understand that and make those connections, then they're able to learn that they don't want someone else to feel that way again, or they do have respect for this place, so they won't do the same action again. So then at that point, they're able to repair the harm to, whether that's apologies, whether that's fixing the vandalism, whatever that is. I mean, like I said, they do need to be held accountable to their choices and have consequences, but it then alleviates us potentially, hopefully, not having to get to the point where, we are looking at some of the other more definitive consequences where they wouldn't potentially be able to be a part of our school anymore and things like that. So, I mean, do we have students that end up, working their way through here and end up moving on to other schools? Absolutely. It's not the perfect fit for everybody, but it is a safe place to have the opportunity to be able to learn, to make changes and grow and mature while you're here at high school. One example that I can think of as far as the restorative approach for one of our students is we had a young man join us last fall. He was at, a local high school here and had pages and pages of punishments, per se, that were done, whether it was detention, suspensions, and things like that due to, some pretty explicit and inappropriate behaviors. Since he's been here now, and we're almost at a year and a half. This is his third semester. He hasn't had any suspensions. He has not been talked to about potential expulsions for creating an unsafe environment. And this happens because, when he's in the classroom and maybe he walks out and is disrespectful to the teacher because he just doesn't care, that teacher is able to have the opportunity to share about how his actions affected that individual and how it made them feel. And at the end of the day, his heart and his mind, he doesn't want people to feel bad. He's just trying to take control of the situation. So he's been able to learn and to understand through a caring, safe, and supportive approach of what the expectations are. If you don't fulfill the expectations, this is what the consequence is going to be. And he realizes that it's not worth it. So he's really been able to excel. He has, like I had said before, he hasn't had any suspensions. He has had the highest grades that he has had since his high school career. And, it's also, I guess, important to note that not only, was he having struggles at that high school, he was also part of a group home and the foster care system for the last few years. So for a student to come here after, 2 years of high school and living in a group home and then be able to grow and adapt and to understand and build relationships with the people in the school, it's been a really amazing journey for him, and he's actually graduating half a semester early and is college bound in January. So it's been a pretty cool journey to watch him on.
When we talk about restorative practice, it's not about, and you mentioned this several times, and I appreciate that, it's not about students not having accountability or having expectations. Restorative practice means that at Next High School, we can help give them a choice to confront them with a choice that they've already made, right? Potentially to be disrespectful or disruptive to the environment, whatever it is. And then also give them a next choice to say, now, how will you choose to restore or make this right and become a part of our healthy culture again. And then if they choose restoration, there's a path for that. And if they choose not to, if they choose to persist in, their behaviors, like you said, some students do cycle out, or it's not a good fit for them, but there's that choice and accountability.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, everything, I say this a lot, is everything you say and everything you do affects everybody around you. And that pertains at home, in the community, and also in school. And, our students, they do make mistakes. They make really big, serious mistakes sometimes too. They're teenagers, they're trying to figure out where's the boundary, how far can they push, what can they do, what can they get away with. And it's important that we create the safe space by by having high structure and having high support, being very clear with our expectations and what the potential consequences are going to be. Then we're able to give them the time and the opportunity to try to work through it.
I mentioned at the top of our conversation, social emotional learning. Can you talk a little bit about first of all, what the term means, and then what it means specifically here at Next High School, and maybe some examples?
Sure. So for, social emotional learning for our students, it's also termed as SEL, and it's been all over, especially with everything with, COVID and what do we need to do to, what do we have to do to meet the needs of our students? And so what we do here at Next, we have an advisory program, which is an opportunity for each of our students to have one kind of go-to support staff or teacher that is their advisor that they can work with individually to get support. That teacher can be their advocate, that can be their liaison, just somebody, a safe ear to talk to, and also some accountability for grades and things like that. I have open door policy, so if any students need any additional support or to talk through things and look at different options, they're always welcome to, to come to my office and receive that. We want them to have the opportunity. They need to have a safe environment to be able to learn, to understand how they feel, how they're affected, and to help them to feel safe and supported within the school environment. So we have the 3 pillars: respect yourself, respect others, and respect the space. So we really do strive to make sure that those are honored. And when those are honored, it gives all of our students, whether it's students that are coming, to us from being homeschooled their whole career, and parents and the student are interested in trying to transition into, a more quote unquote regular, high school setting before that student moves on to college or work. Whether it's a student that's gone to a really big school and just got lost in the shuffle or fell through the cracks and really their needs just really weren't being met. Here at Next High School, they're given the opportunity. It is a safe environment. It's not a cliquey place. Everybody takes care of each other, and it's a community. So we raise each other up. We walk through this, this whole high school life, and students, whether they, are struggling with depression or with, anxiety, whether it's in the classroom or related to social settings, because it's a smaller setting, because it's a safe setting, it gives them the opportunity to figure out who they are, figure out what their interests are, what they're good at, what they're striving to be. And then, as we, try to prepare them for life after high school, they can start that journey here and start building on those skills and be empowered so that when they do graduate from high school, whether they're going to college or the workforce or trade schools, that they have that skill set. And it's because of, the safety here that all students, regardless of what their struggles are and what their strengths are able to work through here and build on.
Staying on the topic of meeting students where they are, we also have a whole school approach to academic support, accommodations, and our special education department.
Yeah. So, we've talked about, we've got support in the community. We've got support in the classroom as far as with the teachers, with myself as a school counselor here. Another piece of our whole approach is also our special education department, where they are able to meet our students where they're at, like we have said, and be able to assist in what strategies or accommodations are necessary to help them achieve to be the best that they can be academically as well as socially and emotionally. Some of the different strategies that we have within the school setting is we do have some inclusive classrooms where we'll have additional academic support, a teacher, an additional teacher in the class to help with some of those students that might need some individual attention throughout the classroom. throughout the class period, as well as we have a Strategies for Success class, which is an academic strategies class, which is teaching them some of the different skills, as well as reviewing their academics and giving them additional support and the opportunity to complete assignments and get extra help that they need. So the special education department works closely with myself and with the families in developing the best education plan to help those students be successful.
So like every school in 2020, this has been a challenging year. Schools going to virtual and students and families and really everyone in the community finding their feet again amid this challenge. Leni, one of the things that you led out towards the end of last academic school year was, as we saw our families and our students struggle with COVID-19 related issues, or with, when our school went, like every school in the state, when we went to virtual instruction towards the end of the year, you noticed, and we all noticed, that there were some students who, without that support here on campus, were starting to fall behind. And we wanted to act quickly and make sure that they were supported. So you actually helped develop a program that we've continued into this year. Do you want to describe that program and how it supports our students?
Sure. So we started a team which is called the Interdisciplinary Team, and so IDT for short. So the IDT actually, before we went virtual, we had discussed about starting because we were having students that we were recognizing were, like Nathan, like you just mentioned, were struggling in all different areas, whether it was academically, socially, and or emotionally. And we wanted to be able to take a whole person approach and work with different parts of the team within the school and sit around the table and be able to identify what are some of the issues and concerns that we have as a school, and also for some students in particularly, and what we can do to support them to help them succeed. Then obviously with COVID, when we all were working from home, it became a different focus, and it was more being able to really be a support system, and kind of we were the connection to these students, to the school, for the duration of the last school year. So what did that look like? So, what that was it was our attendance, it was our records director, it was our campus manager, myself, our peer support director as well, and our administration team, our leadership team. And it would be an opportunity for us to identify what students were potentially, who could possibly fall through the cracks, who was falling behind in their classes, who was dropping off of the radar, who hadn't we heard from. So what we were doing is we got referrals from teachers directly and from the attendance clerk initially to recognize that was kind of the initial red flag of something's not right. And then that student would then be paired up with one of the staff member that I had just mentioned. And then it was our role and responsibility each week to make a connection to those students and or to their family. To identify what the issue was. Was it that they didn't have electricity? Was it that they didn't have the internet? Was it they were just depressed and didn't want to get out of bed? So meeting that student where they were at and their family where they were at, figuring out what holes they had and what gaps needed to be filled. And then we took it upon ourselves to try to fill in those gaps to help support the families and the students so that they would be able to be successful. And for us, what that meant was that at the end of the school year, we actually had to send a report into the state identifying, the number and which students we were not able to make contact with. And I can actually say with great pride, because it was a lot of work, that as of the end of last year, we had made contact with each one of our students throughout COVID, throughout online learning. And that is because of that team. We do still meet weekly for, at least an hour and a half and review any students that we may have some concerns about, whether it is social, emotional, or academic struggles. And then to still, really identify the plan so that they can be able to pass their classes and to be successful.
At a lot of schools, a lot of the time, students aren't really paid this close attention to the way you've described until they've become a real issue, until they're on the verge of suspension or expulsion or failing out or dropping out or just disappearing. We never hear from them again. And what I've heard you describe through the counseling program, through our academic support, and through this interdisciplinary team is an approach that takes everyone on our team. Like you said, it's a lot of work, but we invest in this work so that is not the story of our students. or we strive for that not to be the story of our students. Their journey with us is their journey from where they are, right, meeting them where they are, into their future, and a strong future, and one that they can be really proud. Of course, we're proud of them, but it's even more impactful when they can be proud of their own journey and excited about the opportunities ahead of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I feel like I end a lot of emails to parents and families saying it takes a village. And it's what's important about Next, and what makes my heart happy in being a part of the team here, is that we meet each student where they're at. We build them up when they are doing well and they're excelling and they are getting the straight A's, or doing dual enrollment classes and doing great in internships and going to great colleges. And, everybody else along there, we meet them where they're at, and we challenge them to continue to believe in themselves, to grow, so that when they do graduate and when they do walk away from here, we know that we met them where they were at, and we walked the road with them, and we did it well. And we did it in a proactive approach and in a team approach. And, we really take care of each other and the families as well.
Great. That's a great place for us to come full circle and close this episode out. Leni, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we will sign off with that. We'll see you next time.